This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to the Nerdcast on ProjectNerd.com.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
I knew it. I knew you were bluffing. I knew he was bluffing.
You're listening to the Nerdcast.
I feel like I should say something smart.
With Adam, Bob, Iggy, and Tyler.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
Only on Project Nerd.
That is one big pile of shit.
Nine. Hello, you beautiful nerds, and welcome back to the Nerdcast from Project Nerd, brought to you by Geek Garage. It is episode 228, and it is the return of everyone's favorite version of the Nerdcast, the TNA show. Adam, how you doing?
Oh, yeah, buddy. I'm good, man. How are you?
I am not too bad. Just can keep it on. You know how it is. Every day seems to look exactly like the day before it. So, which is always true anyway, but seems so much more true now.
Yeah, it's inescapable now. At least we can lie to ourselves. We're all very good at this. That things are radically different from a Monday to a Tuesday on a regular week. But you can't do that now. You're in the same spot every day, all the time.
And I'm losing track of what day it is a lot. And I'm even like pretty much, I'm still working 40 hours a week, and I still am having trouble some days remembering what day of the week it is, which I'm sure is even worse for people who don't have like a set schedule going on. But it is what it is. I think we've belabored the isolation point to a T. I mean, some things are opening back up again, but obviously the kinds of things about which we typically talk about on this podcast are not. So obviously cons of all shapes have mostly been shuttered. Movie theaters basically won't be a thing again for a while. So most of the stuff we talk about is, well, one day we're going to get this thing, and we know they're working on it, and we're real excited about it. So that's a good thing. And we're learning new ways to connect online.
Yeah, it's something we don't normally talk about. So soccer, we don't talk a lot of sports, but the German first division soccer team called the Bundesliga opened up this last weekend and played games in empty stadiums. The substitutes were sitting in essentially the first like really fancy row of seats, so not in their normal dugouts, but they're all social distancing 6 feet apart in case they don't go in. They can still have been social distancing and stuff like that. So things are slightly returning to a still not quite normal.
Did you get to watch many of them?
I didn't watch any of them. No.
There was live sporting events going on at times at which you could watch them, and it was soccer, and you did not do it.
Well, I don't have cable, so that's the one thing. And then I couldn't. I mean, you go to the pub. That's we do. You go to the pub and you watch the games, and
you gotta go to the pub and watch the match. You can't do
it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, it's just exciting that there's something happening. I mean, I really want sports to be back. I don't want, obviously, sports to come back at the expense of, anything else. So, but if my chefs don't get to continue to play after just winning the Super Bowl, like this is the prime spot for my chefs. Like until we have to start paying Mahomes and stuff, I need them to squeeze as much. I mean, it is the most Chiefsian, most Kansas City sports thing ever for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, and then the entire infrastructure of professional sports to just shut down. I mean, it's probably more of like it's definitely Chiefs, because we had a little bit of a success. Like you can't say it's like a Browns or a Jets thing, because that would require them to have actually to win the Super Bowl and then have everything come crashing down. The crashing for them comes with the glimmer of success. We actually achieved the success, and now
for them it would have happened if they were like leading their division in October.
Then all of a sudden the outbreak would have shown up. Yeah, that definitely sounds more. That sounds more like them. This is definitely the sweet spot for the Chiefs. Like every 30 years or so, we have a little glimmer of amazingness, and then everything comes crashing down. So it'll be sad if we don't get to play this season. But I will 100% be on board with it if things are still where they are. But for those of you who love sports, stay tuned to Project Nerd, because we may or may not have some sports-related stuff coming up soon, whether or not sports start again. But Well, I'm sure we can stretch the time. ESPN's still thriving somehow.
Yeah, so I was going to say, right? Yeah, we're not trying to do 24-hour
Listen,
We're on like 4 channels or anything.
We can find some filler. It'll be fine. So, other things. I mean, other ways we're finding new things. We've talked about it a lot before, but before the show, we talked a ton about. Adam just got done with a session of his online D&D campaign that he is in, and it sounded like you guys are having some fun.
We are definitely having some fun. So, playing D&D with some friends who I met playing Destiny. So the first Destiny. So good friends of mine because we've been playing games together now for 6 years, long time. No, it's great. So it's been forever since I've played D&D, and forever since my wife's played D&D. So we're taking it kind of nice and slow, playing not, I would say, super strict or super hard version. Our DM is knows us quite well and is so kind of built something that we can all enjoy and like, and we have just the weirdest collection of classes and races and characters, and then a really fun setting in kind of an old westerny kind of setting where we play as members of a circus and are kind of exploring things around and still getting into very D&D things. Like today we accidentally walked through a magical tear into fairy, so yeah, that's good times. Nothing bad ever happens there, so that's okay. Just don't eat anything or drink anything or make any agreements of any kind, so you'll be fine. That was exactly what I told our players. So our DM is great because like I'm not the smartest person in the game. Like my intelligence is based at 8. Like didn't put any points into it because I'm the strong man in the circus, so it doesn't really matter. But our DM's really cool because he's like, hey, if you know something as a person about something we're going up against, I'm okay with your character knowing that as well. Like you don't have to be super smart to know everything or to know some things about stuff or whatever. So, that's really neat. So I was able to be like, hey, I know some things about fairies. They're probably not all cool. They're probably not all dicks either, but they will definitely try to take advantage of you because they live forever and things get boring, and so they try to have some fun. So it's not that they're good or evil. It's that those delineations literally mean nothing to them. yeah, they just do things. So and my friend's like, yeah, they're all chaotic. Like just deal with them as all chaotic neutral. They're gonna do whatever they're gonna do, and you just kind of have to figure it out and roll. And I was like, okay, yeah. So we had a good session. Only played for I don't know, probably 2.5 or 3 hours today. Our first session went for over 4.5. It's really neat. I mean, we play on Zoom, so you can do your Zoom backgrounds and all sorts of fun stuff, and it just makes it really nice. So we all have our own dice and we roll, and the DM, trusts all of us. So nobody's cheating on their dice rolls or anything like that. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're using D&D Beyond to keep track of everything. So online character sheets make it really, really easy, which is very cool. I love it. I'm tempted to get one started myself just to have something else to do, but the logistics of it are tricky. But yeah, Zoom, obviously D&D Beyond is an awesome resource. I use it at a time, like physically at the table, like having my laptop and just using that. It's fantastic. I know a lot of people using Roll20 right now or using Tabletop Simulator. I've used Tabletop Simulator a ton to play just regular board games, but I know a lot of people use it for D&D, and it's a fun little physics simulator. You get to really roll dice, which feels great. So, but if any of you are interested in taking up D&D in these trying times, who maybe haven't ever tried it before, we do have a new podcast called Learning D&D, which is all about the ins and outs, the basics, basically, of 5th edition. Happening on Project Nerd, comes out every week. I think we're 3 episodes in right now. I think the newest one is learning all about the different races, and I think they stay pretty. I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, but I think they stay pretty basic with like the base class, the base races that are in like the player's handbook. We're not getting into like all the extra stuff, but yeah, that's one of the things you'll learn if you really start getting into D&D is how much stuff out there is you can add and how many more books will come out. And like get your player's handbook and then your GM's handbook and then your monster's manual and then all your little expansions and your little settings, and it's going to be fun. We're going to get into some stuff. Yeah, no. So my friend who kind of steered us all into it has been doing an online campaign with his friends for like years now. So he's got all of the stuff on D&D Beyond. So the way it works, I mean, it's run by Wizard, right? And so you can
Yeah,
buy
for those
all
of you who aren't
all the
familiar,
stuff
D&D
digital.
Beyond is Wizard of the Coast's official like portal for all things D&D, and everything that they have that of which there is a physical version of, you can buy a digital version on. So you can buy every manual, every add-on, every campaign book, every literally if there's a physical book that Wizard of the Coast has published that it relates to D&D, you can buy a digital version of it. And if you buy the digital version of it, then you get access to all those things for all their automated online systems for making your character sheets and clicking buttons to add items and spells and slots and stuff. And it's really fun and super intuitive.
Yeah, it makes it really, really easy, and walks you through everything. So yeah, no, we're doing that, and it's been great, and it's just been a really nice way to get together and still game with people outside of video games, because I'm like you, Tyler, sitting at home all day every day. I know you talked about it last time we were together. I don't then want to turn around and just keep sitting down, and so I found myself not playing a lot of video games, which is shocking to everybody, I'm sure. But just watching TV because it's completely mindless and not having to make any kind of decisions on anything. So this is a nice way to get together and still play with my friends who I played video games with, and get that, those couple of hours every week to kind of talk and hang out. So it's been really, really good.
Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. So it doesn't have to be in D&D. Find something to do, but find something that allows you to do a thing with other people online, to do stuff. But D&D Beyond is definitely a good option. I think like the basic version of it's like what, $2.99 a month to get access to like most of the big stuff, and then obviously you have to buy books and stuff like that depending on what subscription you have. But
so it's just one person in your group needs to do it. And if you're all friends, like one person could sign up, and then people can just Venmo them money or PayPal them money or whatever it is to purchase the additional add-ons. Because if one person buys it and creates the campaign, they can invite other people to it, and all of those people then have access to all of the materials that have been bought on that main account. So it makes it really, really good. And I've got a friend, like I said, who's been playing for a while with his other friend, with another group of friends, and he's got nearly everything that's come out in the digital version. So we were able to access, like one of our group is Genasi, which isn't in the core D&D grouping. I'm a Goliath, which I also don't think is in the core. I mean, we all end up picking weird stuff. That's what I mean. We've got a weird combination in our party.
Yeah, it's really fun. I know. I actually was going through it's funny you bring it up, just because I was going through going through my like checking account, my budget, and realized that I definitely still pay D&D Beyond $2.99 a month to keep all my player sheets, everything going, even though I haven't played a campaign in probably 6 months to a year. But it's fine, $2.99. If at any point I just want to hit a button and go and make a character sheet and start playing a game, I can. So I'm not gonna sweat it. So it's okay. I've spent significantly more money on digital board games recently, which is interesting. I mean, I'm someone who has spent just insane amounts of money on physical board games, like probably way more money than anyone should spend on, mainly through Kickstarter. Like, oh, for how many more dollars? You'll give me the metal coins and the really cool figurines. Yeah, cool. Here, have the extra $50. Have the extra $80. What's the stretch goal? $80 more, and I get the neoprene mat and more figurines and some more coins. Yeah, done. Let's do it. Oh, you're going to screen print the meeples for me? I don't even care. Let's do it. Oh, the wooden tree? I definitely need the wooden tree. The cardboard tree is not going to cut it for my Evernote
session. Good enough, right?
No. I mean, that's definitely a trend in Kickstarter board games, and has been for a while, ever since like the heyday of the things like the Gloomhavens and the Rising Suns and stuff. But I'm a sucker for that. But now I've started doing it for digital board games, just because I can't play my physical board games. So we played some Wingspan. We played some Brass the other night. I taught some people how to play Root on Tabletop Simulator, which is really exciting because I love that game. So D&D campaign, maybe not, but at least I've been able to get people to play some board games, which is always a good idea. So
hey, yeah, step in the right direction, buddy.
Well, although we don't encourage people sitting on the couch all day watching things, there is a lot of stuff out there to watch. I feel like half of every one of these episodes since isolation has just been us listing off things that we've watched on streaming. Anything new that you've dug into? You finally got to finish The Mandalorian, which is super exciting. More and more leaks are coming out about season 2 now that we keep hearing. Obviously, we talked about Rosario Dawson possibly being Ahsoka Tano next season. Now we've heard that Timothy Oliphant is joining the cast. I don't care who he's going to be. I'm just excited that he is going to be on the show because Timothy Oliphant is always awesome.
Now, do you like him better as the good guy or the slightly weaselly, funny guy?
Oof. I mean, either or both. I don't even care. He can do it all. He just does what he does. It depends. Like it depends on who he's with. Like he can be the super quirky, weird, over the top guy or the kind of creepy, but it depends on like who he's with. Like I think as the intimidating straight man he works as long as he's got someone who can out weird him next to him. So obviously on Justified, he obviously had one of my favorite actors, one of my favorite like just interesting character actors of all time in Walt Goggins next to him. And no one's going to out interesting Walt Goggins on screen. So like that was a good dichotomy, but when Walt Goggins isn't there, then Timothy Oliphant can fill that role. I mean, even things that aren't great that I don't love, I like Timothy Oliphant in them. So, and if you ever just bored, just go look up videos of him on the Conan O'Brien show because they're always fantastic. Him and Conan are really good friends, and he likes to show up on the show in like shorts and flip flops and just.
Yeah, I was going to say stuff that's weird where Timothy Oliphant does really well. Like the first thing that popped into my mind was Gone in 60 Seconds. Like he's really funny across from Delroy Lindo. Like just throughout that whole movie, he's just right there as like doing goofy shit, being hilarious, but doing it really, really well, right? Like I don't know. I'm with you. I like him. I'm excited about that. But I mean, I gotten into, so the wife and I were hanging out and somebody posted something about found footage films this last week. And it was a ranking of found footage films. And we're like, oh, well, this is interesting. I wonder, kind of where we're at, what they are. And it was from one of our friends, and it was a post linking to an article, but the article pulled the data from IMDb. So IMDb has a list of the top, 100 of any genre kind of film that you want. And they have a list of the top 100 found footage films. And we're like, okay, this is interesting. Let's see what we got here. And the first number one, and I haven't figured out how they're ranked on this IMDb list. I didn't bother to read the whole thing. Number one is As Above, So Below, which is good.
That's the Catacombs in Paris one, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So weird.
Is there a single one? And obviously it's a genre that very much is tilted towards horror, but are there any that aren't what you would consider to be horror films before we go any farther?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay. That's mockumentary, not. I don't know that I would go found footage with that. Mockumentary and found footage are two very different things because What We Do in the Shadows and the mockumentary style, it's very much specifically it's being filmed to shown to people, whereas found footage it was filmed and then obviously found. Like it's different than But okay, all right, fine.
But
I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt. But that's like saying The Office is a found footage television show. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, so I'm trying to think. How does What We Do in the Shadows end?
It just ends with like their friend who's the computer. They have the big fight at the ball.
At the ball, right?
And then the end of it is basically their buddy, the computer programmer, shows back up at the house and he's become a werewolf, and they start hanging out with the werewolves and partying with the werewolves, and that's basically the end of it.
Okay, yeah, because when I saw it on the list, I'm like, man, I need to watch that again because it's been long enough that, like I said, I don't remember exactly how it ends.
The end of it is, what's his name?
But I was like, does it end where somebody gets like the camera crew gets attacked or anything?
It ends. I think someone in the camera crew gets killed at the ball, if I remember correctly, where he almost does. But,
you could eat them, or you could.
But
eat
the end of it is like super.
One of
the end of it's super funny because the werewolf pack that has, I can't think of the actor's name, Reese. It's Murray from Flight of the Conchords. That actor, his pack, basically attacked the. What is the best? Is it Daryl? No, Daryl's Thor's roommate. That's like the weird computer program. It's the same concept though. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Gets attacked and becomes a werewolf, and then because they love him so much, the werewolves and the vampires like reach a détente and start like hanging out, and like the end of it is basically them just like sitting around drinking beers at the house.
Yeah. So I mean, but it's on the list.
Okay. Sorry, I definitely derailed this, but let's.
No. They're so it's good. So the top 5 is As Above, So Below, The Blair Witch Project, Cloverfield, Man Bites Dog or something like that. As a French found footage film. I can't remember it off the top of my head. And I forget what the 5th one was, but there was The Taking of Deborah Logan, I think. That might
Paranormal Activity, is that a found footage, you think?
Yep. It's in there. It's in the top 10.
What's the what's the one? Cannibal Holocaust? That's kind of found footage.
Right. I found another list. So when I searched Laura was looking at it, my wife was looking at it, and when I pulled up the list to see what I could find, I found another list that had that one listed as number 1.
Okay.
Like,
I mean, that definitely has a big cult following. Like there's
that's the one from 1980, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that one, so
that's the one where
I
like some things like that one is infamous just because apparently like some of the shit that went on during the making of it is almost worse than like what the movie's about.
Oh, so. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that's what we've been doing. We've been watching found footage films. And then, of course, once we got to Cloverfield, then we had to watch 10 Cloverfield Lane because that movie is just really good. John Goodman does an unbelievable job in that movie.
God, I love that movie.
And so, yeah, that's what we've been doing is that. And then trying to get back into Ozark. So we got like halfway through season 1 and we finished season 1 this week, which is crazy. And haven't started season 2, but doing Ozark as well. Yep.
Now I'm trying to think of found footage that wouldn't be considered horror. Because Cloverfield's sci-fi, but it's really, I mean, it's film style of a horror movie.
Right. Well, I mean,
what's the one that the guy made that then they, what's his name? He made it, and then they hired him to do Fantastic Four, and it was a shit show. Josh Trank. What's the one he made? Chronicle. About the kids who become like superheroes or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like filmed in found footage.
Yeah, Laura mentioned that one. Was like, because we were starting to watch Cloverfield, and she goes, "Is this the one where the kids like get superpowers?" And I'm like, "No, this is not that one." But yeah. So that one's weird because it's like a combination, right? Because there's like regular shots, and then there's the shots that the kids do, which is like half the movie where they're like filming their own stuff.
And it was like written by Max Landis. Like it was like a full on, but then it got changed during the making. But it was a little bit 50-50.
Michael B. Jordan. Like, I mean, that's a pretty good movie. Yeah, the problem is,
and Dane DeHaan. Dane DeHaan's one of the other, because Dane DeHaan's the one that goes bad. Is the bad guy. He's the one who goes all. He's the one who goes super villain or whatever. But
right. Well, like you said though, so to have found footage, something had to have gone wrong with whoever was doing the filming.
Do you remember the fake documentary about the Blair Witch Project that was shown on Sci-Fi right before the movie came out?
No,
I've tried to explain this to people before, because it was definitely not. They definitely didn't say anything about it. They didn't tell anyone. They didn't talk about how it was like a leading up to this thing. Basically, there was a documentary, a fake, obviously. Let me be clear, a fake documentary that, and it was called Curse of the Blair Witch. And it was basically a show that it was I gotta say, it was in 1999. So this is, I mean, I was in high school at the time. They put a fake documentary on Sci-Fi called Curse of the Blair Witch that was like a History Channel type documentary about this legend of the Blair Witch and about all the different things in the history about this witch in the 1780s who, was sentenced to death by being exiled and died of exposure, and then in Maryland, and they go through these things and they talk about all these killings and disappearances that have happened around Blair, Maryland ever since this happened, and this whole thing. And it was really, I mean, in my head as a kid, I feel like it was really well made. And then they talk about how these video cassettes were then found during an excavation of an old, whatever, and they were in like pristine condition, but like the dirt on top of them was carbon dated to have not been disturbed since like the 17. You know, it's this whole thing, and then they talk about how there's this movie coming out being made with the footage that had been discovered at the dig site, and it's a whole thing. And I just remember that, and it was probably my first, a lot of people's first exposure to like viral marketing. They would they made a bunch of missing person posters that they posted up around like theaters and stuff of the three main characters, and it was a whole. The film's website had like fake police reports, so like it was clever.
I remember watching it in the theater. Like I went and saw it in the theater, like because everybody was fucking talking about it when it came out. Like, it's so fucking wild.
Yeah, it was insane.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, let's go see it. And I took my girlfriend at the time. We went and we watched this movie, and I was like, so that was a thing. Like, and Laura and I talked about it when we were talking about this list. She's like, I would have the Blair Witch Project #1, and I'm like, it's definitely not the best of the found footage movies. Like,
but it is the one that everyone. It was the cultural. It's the touchstone. Yeah. It's the one that people point to. When you explain to someone what a found footage movie is, you say like the Blair Witch Project.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so it's the most well known, and it's good. It's definitely good. But I wasn't scared by the Blair Witch Project. I wasn't like, oh my god, it didn't blow my mind. I wasn't freaking out or anything. I mean, partly because I was 17 years old and just way too cool to freak out about shit. But no, it was good. I enjoyed the hell out of it. But yeah, I don't think it's the best. And so we ended up in this long talk and then watched a bunch of found footage movies this week, trying to see what we like.
What's the series? I just remember the first one that's like this, the Spanish one that takes place in Barcelona with like the firefighters.
I'm not familiar.
It's called Wreck. Or
yeah.
Or Wreck.
I haven't seen that one, but that's on.
I remember. I know a lot of people. I know that a lot of people love, and there's like fucking like 4 or 5 of them now. And then there was a remake of it in the U.S. called Quarantine that had what's her name
from Dexter,
Jennifer Carpenter in it.
Yeah.
So I remember. Have you seen Quarantine?
Have seen Quarantine.
So
Quarantine is also on the list.
So Quarantine's a remake of the original Wreck, of which there's like 4, I think, but they're Spanish.
Yeah, I was gonna say the top or 2 or 3 of the sequels for Wreck are on Amazon Prime.
Oh, really?
But the main one isn't, which I was like, what the hell?
I don't know if
I want to watch. I haven't seen that one.
I don't know if I want to watch horror movies at home alone during isolation.
Did I tell you that in our first week of isolation, I watched 28 Days Later?
Yeah, I could do that. I
could do that one.
That one, I don't know. Zombie movies for me don't fill the same niche as horror movies.
Could you do that one if you lived in England?
Yeah.
With nothing going on the streets?
Yeah, it doesn't. Danny Boyle's making it different. Like that's less of a like, oh, scary and it makes you feel creepy. It's more of just a meditation on the whole thing. Like I don't know. That one, I could watch that one anytime. First of all, is I love zombie movies, and that is probably one of my top 2 or 3 zombie movies of all time. I love 28 Days Later so much. But it's not I wouldn't put it as, it's just barely a zombie movie. I definitely wouldn't at all count it as a horror movie, except for maybe the third act with Christopher Eccleston and the fucking army guys. Like that's the making, like you could make an entire movie of just that, and that's a horror movie. But as it's only like the third act of the film, it's not. I wouldn't put it in the horror movie category. It's like Sunshine. If you made the third act of Sunshine, is if you stretch that out over an hour and a half, that's a horror movie. The first 2 acts of Sunshine, the first 2 acts of 28 Days Later, not a horror movie. They're like profound meditations on the human condition, and then both of them in their third act go full fucking horror. And it works really well in 28 Days Later. I would contend it does not work well in Sunshine. Sunshine would be Danny Boyle's best movie if the third act was better or different.
Yeah, Sunshine's fantastic, and
I love Sunshine, but that third act is so just jarring.
Oh, my favorites. So I've got a really great story. I don't think I've ever told you guys about this. One of my friends in college showed me that. Well, my second time in college, because it's a little bit older, told me about this movie. He's like, oh man, there's this movie called Sunshine, and it really messed me up the first time I watched it. It's got this, this amazing conceptual thing about, like the sun dying, and when it gets brighter, it's because we succeeded. And like all like he talks all about Cillian Murphy's speech and stuff like that. But his story ends with, you should really, really watch it, but don't do it like I did it. I was a little high on LSD when I watched it, and so it like really messed with my mind. And he goes, I still can't watch it because it just totally gets me into this really weird place where I like don't want to go outside for like 4 days because I'm worried the sun's going to get brighter or something. And I'm like, okay, good to know. I won't watch it on LSD. Don't worry. And then I watch it and I'm like, good God, how could anybody watch this on LSD? What did he do?
I mean, I could watch the first 2/3 on drugs. I don't know that I would want to watch the last bit on drugs. The first 2/3 would be fine. God, I do love that. And I am a big Danny Boyle fan. I love Trainspotting. I love Shallow Grave. I love The Beach is fine. The Beach was big for me at a very specific age when it came out, because like it came out in, God, when did The Beach come out? The Beach came out in 2000, 99, 2000. So I was like sophomore, junior in high school. Like that's maybe even freshman. Like in that period of time, that's like prime time, like to see that kind of movie. You go back and watch it now and you're just like, oh, it's like Fight Club. And don't get me wrong, Fight Club is, I'm not trying to compare Fight Club to The Beach. Fight Club is a great film, but Fight Club is one of those movies that you watch it like a freshman and sophomore in high school and you're like, this is the answer to literally all of life's questions. And then you get like 10 years later, you look back and you're like, fuck, why was I ever so cringy? Like,
you're like, ooh, I missed all of the points in that movie.
The Beach has that same kind of feeling to it, which is true of most of like, I didn't realize until many years later, like I'm a huge Alex Garland fan. And so Alex Garland, wrote the novel The Beach that movie is been based on, but then he's the screenwriter for 28 Days Later. He's the screenwriter for Sunshine. He's the screenwriter for Dread. He is the creator of the Hulu's new weird sci-fi show, Devs. He directed Annihilation, based on like the Jeff Vandermeer's novel. Like, but I didn't know until many, 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 many years later that Alex Garland was also the person who wrote the novel on which The Beach was based, and it made so much more. It all came full circle then. It made so much more sense to me. But I lost my Danny Boyle. I don't remember what my point was about Danny Boyle. I love Danny Boyle a lot, but I will also say that Sunshine is just a really great movie, even without me loving it. I'm still upset that we're not going to get a Danny Boyle James Bond movie. I would have loved that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What have you been watching, buddy?
Not as much as I'd like. I've been trying to not sit in my living, because I've been working in the living room, so I've been trying not to sit in the living room and watch stuff if I can all avoid it. But every now and then I'll sit. I started watching Solar Opposites just to give it a shot. I've watched about 2 or 3 of them. It's fun. I mean, if you're into Rick and Morty, it's not quite exactly the same kind of humor, but it's very similar. It's definitely more profane than that one, just I think because it's on a streaming service and it can be. So there's a lot more gore, a lot more, just F-bombs, that sort of stuff. But it's entertaining. It's very much a Justin Roiland thing. And the voices are very, like you recognize a lot of the voices, but it's fun. I had a good time with it. I'm annoyed and yet at the same time thankful that they're doing it. I'm still really, really, really into Harley Quinn on DC Unlimited. I never thought I would actually have a reason to subscribe to DC Unlimited. It's literally worth the subscription just to watch Harley Quinn. It's such a good cartoon. It's upsetting to me how good it is compared to everything else on DC Unlimited. I mean, here's the thing. If you subscribe to DC Unlimited, you get all the DC movies, you get all the old TV shows. So you can watch all the Justice League, all the Batman the Animated Series, all the Batman and Superman adventures. You can watch all the stuff, Justice League Unlimited. You can watch all of that, which is fantastic because all that stuff's fantastic. All the DC animated movies that are coming out. But then all the other original stuff is kind of, I'm not a fan of Titans. I like Doom, but Doom Patrol's pretty fun. It's weird and out there and has a lot of cool people in it. Swamp Thing had some promise, but wasn't great. But Harley Quinn is so good. And there was this most recent episode was a really big one, and it had a big ending that people have been looking forward to for a while. So I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, But what I was going to say is they are still sticking to a new episode comes out every Friday. So like it's the thing I look for. It's literally my lunch break every Friday now. Is I take my lunch break, order my food or like get something cooking, and then sit down and watch the episode before my lunch break ends. And it's like the highlight of my Friday every week. So that's a good thing. At the same time, if given the opportunity, I would literally sit and watch I would watch all 13. If they just would release them, I would just sit and watch all 13 of them in 1 or 2 sittings, which would also be cool. But
yeah.
If you're curious, I would maybe wait until all 13 episodes are out if you don't want to pay for the full, you don't want to pay more than a few times. But I would, if you're a comic fan, you get access to their whole digital library of comics, which is cool. I'm still not a huge fan of reading digital comics. I think they feel clunky, and navigating panels and zooming where I want, like it doesn't feel awesome, but I don't know that anyone's cracked the code on like how to make reading a digital comic feel organic, but
Yeah, that's a bummer because I did the Amazon Prime reading. So you can check out like 10 things from Amazon Prime, and you don't get to keep them or anything, but it's like a digital library essentially. So if you have Prime, you can check out books from Amazon, some of them. You check them out, you read them, you turn them back in, and you can get 10 at a time. So I was sitting there, I was like, oh, hell, all of the Star Wars Darth Vader books are out on Amazon Prime. Let me, the comics. Let me go ahead and pull those in and check them out. And so I tried reading them on the Kindle on my computer, and I'm with you. It doesn't feel good. Because if you're in far enough to see what you're reading, it's hard to keep, the whole page in your mind of the action that's happening. So I found it challenging as well.
Yeah, I remember, I think the first time I tried it outside of, so like back in the day before digital comics were a thing, there was an application called Comic Book Viewer. There was a couple different ones, or CD Display. And basically, just like anything else that was, the LimeWire of comic books, you could download what were called CBR files, and people would just scan comic books on a scanner and put them into a file format, and then you could read them panel by panel in this app that you could download. And it wasn't great, but it was something. And then I remember my first attempt at doing it legitimately is I had one of the very first Kindle Fires, and I don't even remember what I downloaded or what I bought and tried it, and it was fine, but it's just not. I don't know. Like they try to like put it in ways where you zoom into a single panel, but then you want to get back out of the panel, and then how do I turn the page, or how do I zoom in? And it's just there's too many things, and I don't know. I don't know if anyone's cracked that. Here's the thing: I also haven't made many attempts to read online comics, so it is what it is. But maybe someday someone will figure it out. But I don't know that they have yet. So I totally forgot what we were talking about. Oh yeah, Harley Quinn. I like Harley Quinn a lot. Just watch it. It's fantastic. Solar Opposites, Harley Quinn. God, have I watched anything else? I've just watched a lot of older movies. Typically I go on Netflix with the intention, or I go on Amazon Prime, or I go on Hulu with the intention of trying a new show or diving into something that I haven't watched before. And then I end up clicking on, The Matrix or Back to the Future or
it's comforting right now, right?
It is. It's super comforting.
Like watching something that what's going to happen, and you love it, and everything is so up in the air and kind of what's going on that I found myself doing the same thing. Like, we're watching found footage films, and I'm like, oh, we should watch this one we haven't seen. I'm like, or we could watch Quarantine, which we know we like.
Right?
And it's really good. Or not Quarantine, but Cloverfield, I mean.
And there's a lot of new stuff getting added to Netflix now that I'll probably have to give a shot to. A lot of like older TV shows that I kind of remember and kind of got into and never finished have now shown up in there, which is kind of interesting. I know a lot of people are really into the newest / last season of She-Ra is up, and it's supposed to be really good. They finally added the original Avatar: The Last Airbender, just got added to Netflix like this week. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to that. If you've never sat and watched all 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original, I mean, it's a really good cartoon, and I would super encourage anyone to watch it. It is a fun and interesting story. So it's probably one of the best things Nickelodeon's ever done. So
it's very good, yeah. And there has been some news this last week. things going on. I know something everybody, well, not everybody, nearly everybody I know that is excited about. We get a remaster of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1
Oh
and
my
2.
God. So excited.
That is going to end
I think the most important thing is obviously that they're remastering that game and they're getting new scans of all the skaters in it. But the most important thing is not everything, but they have secured the rights to almost every song on the original soundtrack. But that was the game. That's the game breaker there. If they couldn't get the songs, don't even fucking bother.
Right.
That defined the musical taste for an entire generation of people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because I remember just hours and hours and hours in that game, just doing so many things, and that whole period right in there as well. Madden had popular music that played when you would, do your practices for the week or whatever to help your team get better.
And all the menu screens played like pop music and stuff too.
Right. There's a whole bunch of music right in there from the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s that like everybody who plays video games knows. And when they come on, I can remember, drills in Madden pop into my head that I hadn't thought about in 15 years.
When that song comes on,
when it just like hear it, I'm like, oh shit!
Oh, it's time to start putting to this corner. I got to punt in the corner.
Right, yeah, quarterback drill. All right, moving.
Got to hit the target. Got to bat down the passes. There's a couple of those games. So in that period of time, obviously the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games introduced a lot of music to a lot of people. The GTA games introduced a lot of music to a lot of people. The Madden games introduced, and all the EA Sports games, because pretty much all of them played some pop music, whether it was FIFA or it was Madden, or I think NCAA had music. Maybe I'm remembering. No, it just had like fight songs in the background, didn't it? Just
it always
fight songs over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I do remember that. Now I'm hearing them in my head, and it's making me angry. So unless it was the K-State fight song, I got real upset. If you play Boomer Sooner one more effing time, I swear to God.
That Michigan fight song.
The Michigan fight song. The Nebraska fight song. Over it. Anyway, and then years later, it was all Guitar Hero all the time. Like, people didn't know. There's the number of people who I don't know anything about music. I don't know who the Toadies are, but I know that one song, or I know this one. I know Monkey Wrench, and I know these songs. Right. These are the songs that I know because they're on the original Guitar Hero.
People who can sing along to the Talking Heads who have no idea who David Byrne is.
Right.
Because of that one song in Guitar Hero.
That one song in Guitar Hero.
Or Rock Band or any of those. Yeah. Oh, man. Yep. Good times. Yeah. So Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I mean, that's a day one purchase, right, Tyler?
100%.
Is that one I've stopped pre-ordering games, but that might be a pre-order just because
so that I know that it's on my computer ready to go. Yeah, that's gonna happen.
I think so. Yeah,
I definitely need that. 100%. I can't imagine not owning that game the minute it comes out. And I don't know how many people, when they say remaster, I should probably dig into. Honestly, the only thing I've cared about is, are all the same skaters going to be in it? Is all the music going to be in it? And how's it going to look? Are they doing any updates to how the game plays? Probably not. I don't care. I just want to.
Because it doesn't need it. No.
I just want to grind rails in the park, and I don't care. But I'm curious if it'll be good enough for people to play that aren't our age. Is it going to be a game that'll be bought by people who didn't play the original two, or is this the Final Fantasy VII remake of we're cashing in on nostalgia of 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds who just really want to replay these games again?
I mean, that's interesting. I think, well, because
is that a big enough market to release a AAA? Now, granted, I don't know how much more it costs to remaster a game versus remake it. I know with things like Final Fantasy VII and probably this, you can't just update the graphics. You got to rebuild it from the ground up. But I don't know. Is the nostalgia market big enough? I mean, I guess it is in movies. The number of movies that get made specifically on that whole nostalgia factor is.
Think about it. It was big enough when we were kids to buy it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. I mean, it made it then. And think about, gosh. Yeah, those games were so good.
They're so good.
I'm just sitting here thinking about I can't. I can remember every inch of my bedroom when those games came out because I spent so long in there just playing that game over and over and over. I'm gonna come in what are you doing? I'm still playing.
It's almost upsetting to me how how excited I am for games that are literally remakes of games I played for hundreds of hours. So like Final Fantasy VII Remake, super awesome and cool. And it's got a lot of new content in it, but it's a game I know what's going to happen. I know how it ends. I know all the beats of this story. And I've done all these limit breaks and combos and abilities a million times. There's no surprises here, but I've loved it. I'm like nostalgia strong. I'm super excited about, Tony Hawk 1 and 2. The announcement that they're going to now remaster Diablo 2. I'm almost embarrassed at how excited I am about that.
Well, I mean, so the real question is, I've just seen the headline. I haven't read any of the articles, so I don't know. Will it be out before Diablo 4?
God, who even knows anymore? Like Blizzard, other than the fact that Shadowlands basically has a release date and will be out, but everything else about any and all things Blizzard is who the fuck knows anymore?
100% crapshoot. Yep.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, here's the thing. That was always true, but it was true in a way that's like, I'm not worried about it. It's Blizzard. They've delayed this game 15 times. They're going to delay it once more. It doesn't matter when it comes out. It's going to be amazing. And now it's like, fuck, is that game ever even going to get made? Because who the fuck knows now? Like Blizzard has, between like the remake of Warcraft, and that's the only thing that tempers my expectations a little bit is I love Diablo 2 so much, and a remastered version of it would be so cool. And I'm excited about Diablo. I love Diablo. Yeah, love is strong. I really, really like Diablo 3. Because you have to, but it took until the expansion and then like some of the seasons to get where it needed to be good. But Diablo 2 was almost perfect from the get-go, and then the 2 expansions just made it better. But then I look at the remake of Warcraft 3 and I'm like, oh, maybe it won't be. Maybe this isn't the best idea.
Maybe we don't need to ruin that part of my life.
Here's the thing. I have a flash drive. You can't see it from here, but back behind me on one of my bookshelves, there is a tiny little Diablo skull with a soul stone sticking out of it. And if you pull that soul stone out, it's a flash drive with Diablo 2 and all the expansions on it, because I bought the collector's edition of Diablo 3 when it came out. And that was like the gift that came with one of the things that you got with the collector's edition. So pretty excited about that. So I don't know. I honestly hadn't really thought past more Diablo 2 until just now. And now I'm kind of like, well, maybe.
He says this, folks, but it will happen. He will.
I will 100% buy it. Like, there's no question about that.
Yeah. So Tony Hawk. Yeah. What else do we got going on, Tyler?
I don't know. What else did we talk about? So you finished The Mandalorian. We talked about some of the casting news for it. Have you watched the new documentary series on Disney Plus? Like, or is like
about the making of it?
I've only watched I don't know, maybe there's only 2 episodes. I've watched 2 episodes. It's really good. Like, it's super fascinating. And it's 100%. There's a sequence in the second one where Dave Filoni talks about the prequels and talks about specifically a scene in the prequels and how it sets the stage for this whole thing. And when he describes it, I think to myself, well, fuck, if I had seen that prequel movie, that would probably be one of the greatest movies I'd ever seen. He obviously loves this stuff, and obviously he is George's protege, but like, he's become like the new keeper of the tale of Star Wars. Like, but he literally goes on for a solid almost 5 to 10 minutes at a table with like Jon Favreau and Taika Waititi and all like the different directors of the thing, just talking about the fight sequence, like the Duel of the Fates fight sequence. He's talking about Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul, and he extrapolates that scene into like how it's a microcosm for the entire saga and the entire story of Anakin and Luke and this whole thing. And you listen to it, and you're like, if 1/5 of that had come across on screen when I was watching The Phantom Menace, it would be quite possibly one of the greatest. But at the same time, you hear him say it, and then you picture it in your head with his words set to it, and you're like, oh my God, that's so good. I 100%, if you have it, don't do anything else. Just go and watch the second episode and find that sequence of Dave Filoni talking about Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul, and it's so good. And it makes me glad that he's the guy in charge of like Star Wars on screen, at least like television screens for the foreseeable future. Movies, I'm excited to see what they do, but the expanded universe, I mean, people say what they will about the new trilogy. It has its bright spots and its dark spots, but there was nothing not good about The Mandalorian from top to bottom. And if they just want to keep making stuff like that, then I am 100% on board with it.
Yeah, and lots of rumors swirling around since the end of The Mandalorian with, that Hayden Christensen's on board to do a Anakin / early Vader series. And I mean, they've got everybody kind of, I think it got everybody buzzing that, hey, this is a thing to be in again, right? Like, I feel like after the prequels, the Star Wars fans ruined wanting to be in Star Wars a little bit. And we got far enough away. And then the new trilogy, we almost ruined wanting to be in Star Wars again. But I think The Mandalorian has kind of saved people wanting to be in Star Wars or wanting to come back to that world. So hopefully we'll get some good stuff there for sure.
Yeah. And I think the 3 new movies will, I don't know. I'm curious to see if the 3 new movies become, people like them better with time or like them less with time. Because I feel like the gut reactions to all 3 of them were really extreme, which is true of all media these days, especially media which has a huge fandom. But like the way that people view the prequels has changed a little bit over time, in and out. And the original 3 have always been, because they were so new. I'm just really curious if 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 people, everyone will still really hate The Last Jedi or really love The Last Jedi with literally zero middle ground, or if it'll just be another Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be, I mean, fortunately, we'll get to find out.
What others news? We talked about, so we're talking about Star Wars. We're getting a new Star Trek show now. So using some people who played some characters on the most recent season of Discovery, they basically used as a backdoor pilot into now a new series called Star Trek Strange New World with Captain Pike and Spock and Number 1 on it. So Spock is now going to be in his umpteenth iteration of the Star Wars universe. So I don't know. I'm excited about it. I'm going to watch it. I'll see what's happening. Discovery, for as rough as it started, has gotten really good in the last couple seasons. I really loved Picard. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I love Deep Space Nine, Voyager, whatever. Next Generation's my jam. Deep Space Nine is the greatest Star Trek show.
You said Star Trek. You said Star Wars in place of Star Trek like 4 times.
Did I really? Well, we just talked about Star Wars for like 15 minutes, and now I'm in a bad place. So Star Trek, I like Star Trek a lot.
Mm-hmm.
DS9 is my jam. I like Picard a lot. I love Next Generation. But I do get a little annoyed that the powers that be who control the Star Trek franchise insist on rehashing the same like chunk of time over and over and over again. Whereas, I mean, so we have the original series with Kirk and Bones and Spock and Scotty, and we do the whole thing. And then we don't have anything for a long time. And then we get movies with those characters. And then we get Next Generation. Then we get movies with those characters. We get Voyager, and then we get Deep Space Nine. And we keep going farther forward in the timeline and exploring new things. And then after those, we get Enterprise, which is like the prequel to the original series, but with better special effects, so it looks more advanced than the original series. But, you know, it's whatever. That's fine. That's cool. And since then, we've rebooted the original series as movies with Kirk and Spock and McCoy and Uhura and Scotty all over again. We did that a few times. Then we made another television show that almost takes place at the same time as the original series that also has Spock and Pike and all these people. And I just keep going forward or go sideways or do something, but like maybe don't do that exact chunk of time over and over and over again. Like how many times can Spock show up in the same show and before it's like, maybe let's do a period of time in a region of space. Let's go back to the model of DS9. Not even DS9 at least had excuses, and there people could do guest starring roles. Like, you know, obviously Worf joined the cast, and Jean-Luc Picard's in the very first episode, and there was excuses for that to happen because they weren't, you know, Voyager. That rarely happened because Voyager was in the, you know, Delta Quadrant. There was a whole thing happening, but maybe make an episode where it's not feasible for Spock to be a character on the show. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, right. We've talked about that a bunch. Like they are stuck in that period, just like the Star Wars people, to go back to the other Star.
Can only be Skywalkers. All Skywalkers all the time.
All Skywalkers, or were taking place between the Clone Wars and the Battle of Yavin. Like, those are your options. That's all you get to pick from. You want to do something new? Cool. What do you got that takes place in this 40-year period? Nothing? All right, maybe we'll put you on, or you can make a new kids TV show, something. You know.
Yeah, you've got 20 years from I don't even know what is the exact period of time from death of Padme to Battle of Yavin.
Death of Padme to Battle of Yavin. I think
how old is Luke and Leia at Battle of Yavin for?
Oh well, yeah, I guess
because they're born at the very end of Revenge of the Sith. So how old is technically? Is it like 20? I feel like it's like 20 years, but maybe
I thought it was like 2030.
There's probably 17 people who can tell me if.
It's more than.
Let's go to Wikipedia, which is Wikipedia.
There's 17 people yelling at us right now for not knowing this.
Like, how do you not know that? Obviously, they were born 21 minus their ABV minus. Is it still ABY? Is it like that? How do they still do everything?
Yes.
Is ABY, or did that change when they got rid of Legends? Because in my early days of getting into weird RPGs related to Star Wars, everything was, ABY and BBY. So, let's see. Revenge.
Yeah, everything that I've seen is still using the Battle of Yavin as the touchstone point.
Or let's just do Luke Skywalker. He was born 19 BBY.
There you go.
So,
yeah,
2 days after "quote unquote" Empire Day. So 2 days after Palpatine becomes Supreme Emperor or Chancellor, whatever. So he was 19 during the Battle of Yavin, I would assume. So
yeah,
or 18 or whatever. So
there we go.
So almost on the nose. So you have 19 years. Set your series in these 19 years, or GTFO.
Yeah, right. And same thing with Star
Trek. I guess technically Solo probably happened in that window too.
Yeah, because he's got to deal with the Empire.
Yeah.
And Stormtroopers. I mean, he has
Stormtroopers. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all that in there. But yeah, so it's the same thing with Star Trek, right? Like, oh yeah, so I've got this new idea for a TV series. Cool. How old's Spock in it?
Is Kirk in it? Can Scotty be a character?
No, he's not. 150 years after those guys.
Here's the thing. I'm going to watch it. Like, I say all these things. I'm not going to not watch it. I'm not someone who's going to, and I'm not even that mad about it. Like, we say this just because it's something to talk about, but it would be interesting to see new Star Trek ideas.
I mean, they literally have a whole universe. Like,
yeah.
And they want to boldly go where no one has gone before, except the makers of the TV show continually go where people have gone before.
100%. These are not strange. Let me tell you what's not a strange new world anymore. The Mirror Universe, because we've been there 17 times before. Oh, look, the hero has a mustache and is evil now. Yeah, you guys got me this time. Oh, I would not have seen that happening. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm running out of steam now. But I mean, here's the thing. I'll watch it strange. But, maybe just make new sci-fi shows. Make shows that aren't Star Trek or Star Wars. I know that sounds like a terrible idea, but
sacrilege.
Make some new Star Wars stuff. I mean, no matter what else happens, I at least am now getting my third. I say all this, I'm going to get my third version of the original Dune novel, and I could not be more excited.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. Well, I mean, so here's something that at least hasn't been
done quite right yet.
Completely redone as many times. And great. Like, we don't need a new original series because we have one of those and it was really fucking good. We don't need a new Next Generation because we have one of those and it was really good. We need another story.
Yeah.
1984 Dune is great. It's fantastic. There's, but it could be with updated graphics and a storyteller like Villanueva, like it could be fantastic
and tell the whole story and not have. There's a lot of stuff. I love David Lynch, but there's a lot of problems with his Dune if you're a fan of the novel of Dune. So
right, yeah, I love that movie for what it is, not for what it does to the novel, right?
Yeah. And then we've got the 2000, was it 2000? The sci-fi miniseries of Dune with William Hurt, and there's a lot of people in it actually, and it's a lot of fun, and it tries to stick. It's a 6-hour miniseries or 3-hour miniseries. It's long. It's like 2 episodes. I don't remember how long it was. It was super long. Maybe it was 4 hours. It was 2-hour chunks. I'm actually kind of curious. How long was that? Was it? I feel like
what they used to do with those miniseries was right, like 2 hours of actual video with like an hour of commercials.
But I feel like
it felt really long.
That the turn of the century, like around that period of time, like the late 90s, early 2000s, when they did a miniseries on TV, it was always like a 3-night event, and it'd be like a 2 hours, and that's probably an hour and a half maybe of video. But so it came out in December of
something like that,
2000, and it was 3 episodes, which means
I'll tell you what, it wasn't a great time for TV special effects either. In that time period.
I mean, like, let's put it this way. And granted, obviously, money is not the same then, but it was 265 minutes long. The director's cut it's 295 minutes long. So it's just over 4.5 hours long, almost 5 hours long. And Sci-Fi spent an estimated $20 million on the whole thing.
Ouchie, bro. I mean, so Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame match that runtime. If you put them together, they're probably longer, and they spent what?
And Robert Downey Jr. alone got paid probably $20 million to be in each.
I was gonna say total, they top pretty close to $1 billion, I would think, making those 2 movies. So,
and they had a lot of people in it. You know, Alec Newman, William Hurt, Ian McNeice. Like, there were some interesting people in it. What's his name plays the Giancarlo Giannani plays the Emperor. I actually rewatched parts of it recently just because I've been thinking about Dune a lot, and I was rereading the book. And it does a lot of things really well and very interestingly. It does a lot of things not great. Like you said, the special effects are not great. And then they went on to make a second one called Children of Dune, another 6-hour one that took Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, smashed them together, and turned into that into a whole thing. I mean, the fact they made a second one makes me think that it did okay for them. So
yeah, I mean, Sci-Fi back then was, that was a popular channel. I think they were doing lots of good stuff back then. So
God, I do miss early old school Sci-Fi. And they would do those like weekend marathons. I remember I was in college, maybe early college, and one day I sat down and Sci-Fi was showing every single episode of Sequest DSV in order, just one after the other. And I sat and watched literally every single one. I think they did that once with Swamp Thing too. They showed every episode of like USA Swamp Thing and the Swamp Thing movies. So I used to a lot of that. But like back in the day, like between Stargate and Farscape, and those were my jam. Anyway, Villeneuve's making Dune. I could not be more excited. We've talked about it on the show many times, but there's a lot of pictures out there now from the set and of the characters. And I'm really excited.
That costume design, though.
God,
it looks
the still
so
suit,
good.
man. It's real cool.
Yeah. No, very excited about that for sure.
A lot of really cool people on the cast. I am pumped about. I mean, Denis Villeneuve might be my favorite working director today. I mean, just between. I mean, I love a lot of the stuff he's done, but if you were to just take Arrival and his Blade Runner, those 2 movies alone, shoot him to the top of my list. Sicario, though, amazing. Incendies, Prisoners, but Arrival and Blade Runner are so good. I'm excited for Dune. I am really excited for Dune. I don't know. I feel like we've been talking for a while. What else is going on, Adam? Anything else? Anything else we need to let the peoples know about?
I don't think so. I think we've gotten the big stuff for us, obviously. I'm sure there's big things happening. Fred Willard.
Oh man, Fred Willard died. That's sad.
We need to talk about that at least a little bit.
Poor Fred. I love Fred. Fred Willard was a comedic genius. Most people got to know him through the mockumentaries of
Christopher Guest movies.
Christopher Guest movies, but anytime he showed up in something, you knew it was going to be just hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and he's so good at that deadpan delivery. I mean, that's why he's in all the Christopher Guest stuff, because like he can say something completely outlandish, and in the most dead straight 100% believable way that this is just a normal thing that's happening in his world. And you're like, okay, yeah, no, that guy sells that.
Or his ability to do bemused cluelessness. Like, obviously he's the only person in the room who doesn't understand what's going on, but can talk about it with such enthusiasm that you're just like, I mean, I just want to hang out with this guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's sad.
What was the other one that was a show? Oh, Lynn Shelton. That was
Yeah.
a really shocker. Mark Maron came out and did that post. She apparently had a previously undiagnosed blood condition and collapsed, and a couple days later was dead. She was only like 52. If you haven't seen any of her movies, she was a filmmaker. I'm trying to think of something. Sword of Truth was like her most recent one. She had worked on like Glow a little bit. What are some of her other movies that?
Yeah, I mean,
probably...
she's one of those people that
Your Sister's Sister, Hump
you have
Day.
seen something she's done. You
Outside
just probably
In.
don't know that you have.
And she shows up as characters and stuff. She was in a lot of like the Duplass brothers. She was in like Safety Not Guaranteed, which I loved. And anyway, she's really good. And I'm sad that she is.
Yeah.
She did a lot of television directing too. Directed
Right.
a lot of shows of like Glow and Mad Men, Master of None. Anyway, that was super sad when I heard that she had died. And also just shocking. She wasn't.
Yeah. No, that's a bummer.
Wasn't that old. 54. She was 54. So. Well, wow. We didn't end on this a downer. What else? Let's talk to something else. Talk about something else before we wrap it up. So, I mean, obviously, we don't want to belabor the point of every cool thing that we love getting canceled all throughout the year. But now it's come out that San Diego Comic-Con is going to try to do San Diego Comic-Con at home, or San Diego Comic-Con online, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see how that will go. I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of conventions that do have an online component. So like if you're a fan of like Blizzard, like BlizzCon, you can buy an online ticket to BlizzCon every year and watch the main keynotes live and stream them, or watch panels live and stream them. I guess I don't know how it, but that still, those all hinge on the fact that there is still a show going on that you can live stream. I don't know how you do Hall H panels. I don't know how you get the equivalent of a Hall H experience for streaming during, COVID-19.
Yeah. You don't get the experience of standing in line at Hall H and waiting your turn to get in. You don't have to, deal with all of that. But I'm 100% with you. Like, some of the fun of, as someone who's never been, some of the fun of watching the stuff that gets leaked online about San Diego Comic-Con is the audience reaction to the trailer when it pops up and it's that first thing and people lose their fucking minds. Like, that is fantastic to see, somebody filming it with their iPhone or whatever. But you're definitely, you don't get that. There's nothing going on. Like, how does it work? And do they limit Hall H, or does Hall H have 4 million people in it this year? Like, what happens?
Yeah. Well, you obviously, like, San Diego Comic-Con is not going to happen. There won't be a Hall H. There's not going to be a room full of people watching these things happen. And the logistics of, putting content for Comic-Con on a website behind a paywall that requires you to buy a digital badge and pay money to get a virtual ticket to watch content, that's a thing that it exists. It's easy to do. There's a million streaming sites, and like I said, BlizzCon and other conventions do this. I guess the question is in these current conditions, how do you produce content that you put behind that wall that is going to warrant me paying for it? Like, how do you convince? Not even
trailers that are going to be out in a week.
Yeah,
anyway,
not how do you make content? Not even how do you make content that's worth my money giving to you? How do you make content? How do you even convince me that you have content to pay for? Like, that's the biggest thing, is they don't have anything to, like, point to say, because it's never been done before. Like they don't once you got my money, then it's over. It doesn't really matter what you do. But I think the hill they have to get over is like, how do you even convince me that it's worth me giving you your money? Because if there's no exclusives, there's no panels, there's no here's 20 celebrities on a stage like making jokes, cracking wise, and answering Q&A. Like, how do you even warrant me giving you, like, how do you convince me to give you the money if the big thing is, so we have this trailer. Cool. Well, the trailer will be out in a month. I'll just wait. I don't need to pay $15 for that or whatever. I don't even know what the cost would be. But, and also just because all these people, so many of these creators, so many of these artists, so many of these people are already stuck at home just like us anyway. They're already creating so much of this content anyway. Like the amount of stuff that's out there on YouTube just to keep things in people's minds, to keep projects, to keep shows, to keep things in people's front head. Like that amount of content out there is, I don't know, maybe I'm way overthinking this. Maybe they'll make a ton of money and it'll be perfectly fine and whatever. But I am curious to see how Comic-Con at home is going to work. And if it's just like a one-off thing to try and recoup some losses because you don't get to have a show this year, or if it's a full-on, like, this is a thing going forward forever now.
Well, I'm wondering, like, they got to have a bunch of San Diego Comic-Con exclusives ordered with Funko and all the other producers, right? So, like, is it a chance to sign up to buy or get one of those exclusives still? Because, I mean, I'll pay $15 to get a exclusive Funko Pop, right? Like, okay,
yeah,
sure,
but most of those you were still buying from that vendor. You just had to buy it at San Diego Comic-Con. And then if it wasn't the super popular one, I can't tell you how many San Diego Comic-Con exclusives I've bought a year later at Planet Comic-Con or at Denver Comic-Con or at O Comic-Con or at, that sort of thing, unless it's a new Funko Pop that you can't get anywhere else, or it's a Mondo poster, or but usually you're still buying, like, I guess that would be one thing you could do. So like Mondo already does, timed release, limited edition, and we're going to put it on Twitter. If you're not one of the first 80 people to sign up to buy it, you don't get it. And I've tried to do that many times. I've successfully bought like a limited edition Mondo poster maybe twice in my life, and I love them and they're prized possessions, but I wish if I was luckier, I would have more of them. I mean, I would have spent money there. So, or same thing with Bottleneck Press, I guess. But even then at San Diego Comic-Con, when you're buying that limited edition glow-in-the-dark Ghostbusters poster, like the one they had last year or the year before, you're not buying it from San Diego Comic-Con. You're buying a ticket to San Diego Comic-Con to then stand in line to then try to be one of the first 100 people at the booth for Mondo or to buy the
that's
thing.
true, right? Yeah.
So maybe do you make some deal where, I guess, do you make some, I don't know how the money works out or how the agreements work out. Do you make some deal with the Mondos, with the Funkos to say, hey, remember we contracted you for this thing. You can still do this. You just have to sell it through our website so that people have to buy a ticket to San Diego at home to then have the option to then maybe possibly buy the thing from
you guys, right? Yeah.
But at the same time, that's cool. At the same time, like, I think in that scale, you open the door for people to just get real upset because people get mad enough when they stand in line for these sorts of things. But if buying like concert tickets online or buying anything online is taught anyone, if you do it online, someone's going to fuck it up and people are going to get angry because someone found a way to backdoor someone made a bot that bought all 100 of them and is now selling them on eBay for 10 times their face value and making a killing. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. Maybe there's people better and smarter than I am making these plans, and we're extrapolating a lot of stuff based off of like a single interview and like the Hollywood Reporter saying like, hey, we're gonna do this digital thing, but
they're trying to figure it out. Yeah,
they're still in like, I'm pretty sure like the headline of like the Hollywood Reporter interview was basically we're still in like the planning phase. So I don't know.
Maybe they'll listen to this and solve all those problems for us.
Yeah. Well, parking will be free because that's always my least favorite thing about paying for parking, and don't have to stand in line. I will stand in line to get a signature. I will stand in line to get into a panel. I don't a lot of times have to, but we've been lucky to be a part of a lot of cool conventions and know a lot of people and coverage for a lot of things. So we get into things that get access and press access stuff that we necessarily the average attendee to a con doesn't get to see, doesn't get access to. But at the same time, I have stood in line for a panel, stood in line for dinner. The one thing I will not miss about cons is, God damn it, I don't like standing in line to just get lunch, and usually not a good lunch. I just want these shitty chicken tenders and some fries, and I'm gonna spend a good hour and a half waiting to get them. And it's gonna cost me $20, and I'm gonna be real upset about it. That I will not miss. That is probably the one thing about conventions I will not miss. And paying for parking. Paying for parking and overpriced shitty food that I had to wait 2 hours for.
There we go.
There it is. I found the silver lining to this whole situation. Nailed it.
Hey, that's there you go.
We had to bring everyone up before we got out of here. So with that,
good news to end on,
we should probably wrap up this episode of the TNA show. Coming to you live from Project Nerd. Brought to you by Geek Garage, geek-garage.com, who are now doing, what did we decide to call them now? Cruise buys?
Yeah, I believe it was cruise buys. Definitely not drive-bys.
Definitely not drive-bys. But if you need a sweet pop culture car from pulp culture of your choosing to possibly cruise by a child's birthday party or, park out front and honk, they can do that in these trying times. And then eventually, some point, we'll start having conventions again, and you can have all their cars come to your show, and it'll be super dope. Trust me, They have some super cool cars.
They are super dope, yes.
So, geek-garage.com are proud sponsors of the Nerdcast from Project Nerd. Adam, you got anything else to take us out here with?
No, that's pretty much everything, man. You guys watch some good stuff, read some good stuff, and just like last week, stay safe, and we love you guys.
Yeah, read some stuff. All right. Well, we'll see you all next time, you beautiful nerds. Same nerd time, same nerd channel. Have a good week.
Hey, Pro Nerds, thanks for listening to the podcast. If you like the Nerdcast and other amazing Project Nerd podcasts, please go give us a subscription, a like, a review, wherever you find us, as we need your love and support to continue making awesome content. Next week, we'll be back with another great episode of Nerdcast, as well as other original Project Nerd podcasts.